Hey guys, Mary Fox here. Welcome to my best of summer 2016. So, in this series, I'm going to talk about, in my opinion, the top 5 shows of the summer 2016 season. And the first show that I'm going to talk about is Kuromukuro. So, this is a show done by the studio PA Works that are known for other shows such as Angel Beats, Shirobako, and most recently, Charlotte. It ran for 26 episodes, and the story is an original story. It doesn't have any prior source material. So I'm going to give you guys a brief synopsis of the story. So yeah, let's get into it. Alright, so the show pretty much opens up on one of our main characters, Yukina Shirahane, and she's having sort of like a parent-teacher conference with her mother and her teacher kind of discussing what her future career aspirations are going to be. Because she doesn't really know where she wants to go or what she wants to pursue further in her life. So after the meeting, her mother leaves back to her work, but she forgets her phone, so obviously Yukina has to go take her phone to her at her job. And where her mother works, she's actually the director of the Kurobe Research Institute, which essentially is an institute located in Japan, in Kurobe, and they have a lot of ancient relics and artifacts there that they have uncovered. And they're pretty much there just researching them, seeing if they can glean any information about what they could have possibly been used for in the past. So when she gets there, a couple of researchers that are friends with her mom decide to call her over and show her this artifact that they have found. And it is called the Cube. So it's about a 7-foot by 7-foot cube, so it's pretty big. And while they are showing her this cube, there's an attack launched on the Research Institute. So what the enemies seem to be is two types of mechs, essentially. There are the smaller grunt ones that are maybe about 7 to 8 feet tall, and then there is a larger golden mech that seems to be the leader. So in the confusion of the attack, Yukina ends up touching the cube, and it opens up, and out comes this warrior, Konosuke, who doesn't really know where he is or what the time is. All he knows is he sees these mechs, and he recognizes them as one of the last things he remembers seeing and fighting when he was alive in his time. So instantly he goes and starts to fight the mechs. In addition to him fighting the mechs, there are also defense mechanisms that the Institute itself has, namely in the form of two piloted mechs called the Gauss. So Konosuke and the Gauss pretty much clean up most of the small fry, and the big golden mech kind of leaves and goes off. And so from there, the story pretty much goes into Konosuke trying to escape from the facility, ends up grabbing Yukina because she reminds him of someone in his past, and they end up piloting the Black Relic, which was located deep in the basement of the Research Institute. It was a relic, a big mech that they found many years ago. They just really couldn't figure out how to activate it. So pretty much it goes on from there with Konosuke and Yukina having to pilot this mech and figure out who they were attacked by, why they were attacked, and the story pretty much goes from there. So the genres of this show is predominantly going to be mecha and drama with a little touch of sci-fi, not too much, but there's a little bit in there. The art for this show I think is pretty good. In terms of character designs, I think they are good as well. I think the designs are distinct enough that you don't really get confused when you're being introduced to these characters. So it's not really hard to forget who they are. In terms of animation, I think the animation is also very good, especially during action fight scenes. I will say that the mechas are done in CG, but I think that PA Works does a good job of blending it into the regular animation and making it pretty seamless, so it doesn't really stick out when you're watching the show, which I think is a positive thing. So some of my basic comments about the show: I think the show did a pretty good job of pacing itself. It is 26 episodes, so it did have a longer time, so they didn't have to move super quickly. But I think they did a nice balance between the action sequences and then also the drama sequences, namely the school, because even though Yukina and Konosuke are piloting the Black Relic, they still are high school age students, so they do end up going to school and kind of doing normal daily high school activities. So I think between using that and the action scenes of the mechs fighting, I think it was a really good balance for the show. Also, I think the world they built was very, very interesting. It really had a lot of moving parts to it, and they really did spend enough time really describing all the different moving parts of the world and how they kind of all fit into each other, which I thought was really good, really fleshing out this world that they have created for us. Another thing I really liked were the mecha designs. There are several different kinds of mechs that you encounter throughout the show, and they all are very distinct, and they all have their strong points and weak points, which I think is really interesting. And I think it keeps it pretty fresh, being able to see all these different kinds of mechs and how they really interact with each other. Bouncing off the mechs, I think the fight scenes with the mechs are very, very good. You might think that, like most mech shows, they're going to have some kind of gun or projectile or missile. In this show, not so much. It's pretty much going to be mostly sword fighting. So most mechs have some swords, either be it 2, 3, or 4, depending on the appendages of the mech. The fight scenes are really compact and really to the point. But even though I say that, there is still a lot of meat packed into the fight sequences. Where if you've watched, for example, something like DBZ, you know, sometimes when two opponents are fighting, they have like the stalemate where they both are about the same power level, and so it is not really going anywhere. In this show, it's not really like that. The fight is always moving, always progressing toward the conclusion of the fight, while keeping it engaging and entertaining because there is no fluff or filler. It's just important information in this fight, which again keeps it engaging and entertaining for the viewer. In regards to the plot of the show, I think that they told a pretty cohesive story. They really, I think, set out and did very well the story they wanted to tell. Now, I will say at the end there is a little bit of an open-ended ending so that they have a chance for season 2 if they decide to go in that direction. But even though they do have that open ending, it doesn't really impact the story they told so much. The story that they told was told very well, and all major questions were answered. So if you're worried about open-ended shows, don't worry about that this much. It doesn't really affect the main show that much. It's just a way for them to get into a second season if they decide to go that way. And also going off, and in the story, there are a couple nice twists that keep it engaging and keep you wanting to watch more to figure out what happened. But even though this plot is good, I do think the characters are where the show really shines. I think the characters are really what propels the show forward, because a lot of it is based off their personalities and how they feel and where they want to go and their choices. Because on one hand, you have Yukina, who is this high school student who doesn't really know where she wants to go and doesn't really have a clear path of what she wants to do in her life. And then on the other hand, you have Konosuke, who is this samurai from another time who doesn't really know where he is or what time period he's in, but all he knows is that he needs to do what he was doing before, which is killing the mechs, or as he calls them, demons. So you have these two really conflicting ideologies and paths, and it's really interesting how they develop, and each one of them evolves to find more of a middle ground and how the character themselves needs to grow and evolve. One thing I didn't truly understand about the show was when you see them piloting the mech, it seems like Konosuke is doing a lot of it, and Yukina, for the most part, seems to just be like a navigator and telling him like, oh, here's a mech here, here, and here. So I'm not really sure what her main purpose in the mech was supposed to be. So I don't think they really conveyed her position in the mech very well. But I think if that's like pretty much the only real issue I had with the show. So that's a very small issue. So I don't really think it takes away too much from the show. So I don't really have a real rating system for these shows. I will just say, like I was saying in the beginning of this video, these are the top 5 shows in my opinion of the summer season. So if this sounds at all interesting to you, I'd really implore you to give it a watch, or at least just try the first episodes and see how you like it. I think you'll definitely like it if you're into the mecha genre. I think it will really be a good fun show for you. And even if you're not in that mech genre, I'd still implore you to give it a look, because I think it is one of the strongest shows of the summer season. So if you agreed or disagreed with any of the comments I made in this video, feel free to leave a comment down below. I will be releasing the other 4 videos for the other top shows of the summer 2016 season, so if you want to make sure you don't miss any of those, make sure to hit the subscribe button. And until then, I'll see you guys next time.